Pulled my daughter out of a religious school without telling my husband after watching her get indoctrinated, and it turned into a full-blown custody battle with his entire fanatical family coming after me. My husband, 33M, and I, 28F, have a daughter, 6F. We've been married for 6 years and we dated for about a year before we got married. When my husband and I first started dating, I learned that he grew up in a very religious Pentecostal family. He's not fanatically religious and he always shared stories about strange things he has seen at tent revivals and people claiming they are healing others from demons, speaking in tongues, etc. He has said he's not nearly religious like his family, which I found reassuring because I grew up in a pretty relaxed family when it came to religion. He even told me how refreshing I was to him because of how secular and open-minded I am. Anytime I've spent time with his family, he always told me not to take anything they said seriously. They really wanted me to convert and join their Pentecostal church, which I didn't want to, and it was a point of contention. When we got married, it was an overly religious event, but it was to appease his mill so they didn't make a huge stink. Appeasing his parents was mostly only in small doses here and there though, so I tolerated it because I love him. His parents became insufferable and tried to control a lot of decisions when my daughter was born. His mother gave him a ton of shit about how concerned they are about my daughter being raised by me. They wanted to homeschool her when it was that time for her to start going to school. I shut that shit down real fast. I've talked to him many times about how he needs to stand up to his parents and back me up more. He thought of a compromise where we can send her to a Pentecostal private school. I was skeptical, but open-minded, and I wanted to meet with teachers and faculty at the school and they seemed alright. I had friends that went to religious schools. So to keep peace amongst the family, we enrolled her. I knew I wanted to make sure her home life would be an environment for open-minded thinking. I've expressed this to him. He told me he would be open to enrolling her to another school if it doesn't work out. She's been going to this school for 2 years now. Anytime I talk to him about my concerns, he deflects. I've had her talk to me about the concept of hell and asking me if I think her grandfather, my dad, is there. I recently witnessed her waving her arm slowly in the air, head bowed to the floor, moving to music when watching TV sometimes. I'm terrified of the indoctrination at such a young age. I've had enough. I took her out of the school without even telling my husband because he has absolutely no sense of urgency and shuts down the topic immediately. He was furious with me and screamed at me, and was trying to tell me how much of a nightmare public schools can be and that one of the teachers at the private school is friends with his mother and she's going to be telling her everything, etc. 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 This is such a clusterfuck and I feel sick about subjecting my daughter to all of this conflict and tension. My husband left and said he needed time to process what I did. He's spending Easter with his parents and I'm alone with my daughter. I'm not lost when it comes to knowing that I want to protect my daughter at all costs. What I need advice on is that I feel totally lost on how to go forward with my relationship. This has been one of the only times I stood my ground and everything feels like it's crumbling. How should I go about this situation with my husband? Update 1. Thank you for all the responses on the original post. A lot of the feedback I really needed to hear and it helped me come to realizations about this situation. I am very frustrated with myself for letting everything get out of hand like this. My daughter means everything to me and I'm pissed that I didn't stop all of this sooner or saw the warning signs as a lot. I know it seems so obvious and I should have known better, but it's hard to explain why it was so hard. I was basically a frog in a pot of water that was very slowly starting to boil. There was a weird fog of war from everything going on that I deluded myself into thinking compromise was possible. My husband's ambivalence to what I find alarming really slowly evolved over time. It wasn't like a light switch. I know that hindsight is 20/20, but I can't help but feel anger to myself. I basically took her out of the school Thursday morning of last week. The night before we got into an argument when I brought up my discomfort about the school. I know a lot of people thought my breaking point was seeing my daughter praying and swaying. It was really a culmination of a lot of things, between the praying, the fire and brimstone mentality of the topics about hell and the fear I sensed coming from her, the awkwardness and coldness I would get from faculty at that school whenever I picked her up. She would at times spew gibberish or recite Bible passages of which she doesn't even comprehend or understand what any of it actually means, etc. etc. My frustrations boiled over and my husband refused to talk about it as he has done several times before over the last 2 years, so the following morning, I took her out of the school. After he screamed at me and argued with me about how public schools are dangerous, he stormed off and I haven't heard from him since that argument. He's completely MIA. I've met with a few schools and I'm already trying to find solutions on that end. I'm not too worried about being able to find a less scarring/abusive environment for her. I think there are a lot of good options for her on that front. My main worry now is the unpredictable nature/silence from my husband. My brother has some of connections to a few divorce lawyers, so I talked to some in preparation for the worst. Yesterday evening, a man in his late 70s/early 80s stopped by our house, I didn't answer the door because I didn't recognize him. He went on to suspiciously mosey around the property, looking around the house and then left. I called the police, and they went around and surveyed, but the man had left before the police arrived. Earlier this afternoon, I went to get the mail and I saw this man again and he approached me. He walked up to me as if he knew me, and said he wanted to check on the welfare of the child that lives in this house. I asked him who he was, and he refused to answer me. He then started to mention the name of the psychiatrist I see and mentioned that a little girl being looked after by a young woman with mental illness is a cause for great alarm. Something along those lines. I've been going to a psychiatrist for anxiety disorder. It's nothing out of hand and I've gotten a firm grasp on keeping at bay with medication and I've been okay with it. Only my husband knows about this, and I assume his parents know because he knows, and whoever this man is knows them is my only assumption. I told this man to leave and I threatened to call the police. He left after he said something about how the girl is going to be protected. I'm going to meet with a lawyer tomorrow and figure out a plan. I'm going to file for a divorce because this has gotten to a point where I feel unsafe. I worry that me being treated for anxiety disorder will be used against me. I have no idea what they are plotting against me, but they are playing mind games with me. I left the house with my daughter. We're safe, and I have a much clearer idea and solution going forward. I'm not going to try to salvage the relationship with my husband, and my main focus is to make sure my daughter is in stable and safe environment. Update 2. I took her out of the school without even telling my husband because he has absolutely no sense of urgency and immediately shuts down the topic. When he got home, he was furious and screamed at me. He tried to tell me how much of a nightmare public schools can be and that one of the teachers at the private school, who is friends with his mother, would be telling her everything, etc. He stormed out to spend Easter weekend with his parents, leaving us in silence for nearly 2 weeks. In his absence, an elderly man I don't know at all visited our home twice. Claiming concern for my daughter's safety, he inappropriately referenced my anxiety disorder and my psychiatrist's name, known only to my husband and presumably his parents. I called the police. I noticed substantial withdrawals from our joint bank account. I promptly transferred the remaining money into a private savings account and left our home with our daughter for the safety of my brother's house, several hours away. I started engaging with a divorce attorney, exploring the process of filing for divorce and a custody order. After nearly 2 weeks of no contact, my husband called accusing me of taking his daughter away. His mother, audibly yelling in the background, attacked my anxiety disorder, referencing me as Miss Clonopin and not wanting me to drag her granddaughter to hell with you, claiming grandparent rights, etc. I told him I thought it was best we engage going forward through our lawyers, and I hung up. This ordeal has been an absolute nightmare. After filing a petition, any negotiations for a settlement have quickly reached an impasse to the point where I don't see how we wouldn't eventually go to court. My brother has been helping me with legal costs, and he suspects things are being drawn out to try to bleed me dry financially because my husband makes a lot more money than I do. The negotiations reach impasses because of their aggressive claims against me. They allege that I'm making up stories about the intimidation from the older man, though I'm telling the truth. They're also arguing that by pulling our daughter out of the Pentecostal school and refusing to allow her to interact with her grandparents, removed her from a stable environment and thrust her into an unfamiliar one. Accusing me of secular bias, insisting that my actions were damaging to our daughter's mental and emotional well-being, that I was depriving her of her faith community, and that I was causing unnecessary confusion and anxiety by uprooting everything she had known and taking her hours away from her main family and friends at school. They're also claiming that I was actively ignoring my husband's attempts to make contact, despite him not actually making any attempts outside of that one phone call he made. My lawyer says they're trying to exploit the court's usual preference for maintaining stability in a child's life, and they want me to feel a sense of hopelessness so that I cave in to compromise. My brother thinks it's good to go to court because he said a lot of this bullshit on their end will be exposed. Can't wait for this nightmare to be over. I just want my daughter to be safe from crazies. Comment where Op has replied, comment, the fact is though that for alleged kidnapping, I can imagine there were no Amber Alerts, and you pointed out that he had not contacted you for 2 weeks. This is serious parental neglect, especially if he actually believed that there was any perceived real threat to his daughter. You can't call upon a doomsday scenario but do fuck all except for twiddle your thumbs up for 336 hours. If he cared at all for all of the things he mentioned, decisive, legal action would have been exercised right away within the first 24 to 48 hours. Same goes for the grandparents. If you the mother are unsuitable and they had reason to believe something foul was amiss, they should have done something from the get-go. I seriously can't get over the 2-week delay. You can't say that instability is a huge issue, but be permissive about it for 2 weeks and then make a huge fuss over it. Yep, that's my main argument. He's trying to work around the 2-week thing by trying to claim I was actively ignoring his attempts to make contact, which wasn't true. Update 3, There is more context on all of this in my previous posts on various subreddits. But to briefly summarize everything that has happened before, I've been locked in a feud with my soon-to-be ex over raising our 6-year-old daughter. When we started dating, he downplayed his deep Pentecostal roots. However, post our daughter's birth, his parents' religious influence grew, and he became submissive to their wishes, much to my dismay. I reluctantly compromised into an agreement for her to enroll in a Pentecostal school. But when I saw the impact, I yanked her out, causing a massive rift. After some intimidation attempts from the Pentecostal community and a few financial scares, I left home with my daughter. I'm pursuing a divorce, but the negotiations have been bitter. They claimed I'm ruining our daughter's life by removing her from a familiar faith and friends. We're bringing in a third-party mediator, because negotiations still aren't going anywhere, but I doubt it will make a difference. What I want and what my husband and his parents want are vastly different. Their terms are crazy. He wants full custody of our daughter and that I can see her once a week. Originally it was once a month, and then it was increased to once a week as their way to throw me a bone. They persistently attack my mental health. They don't believe in psychiatry at all. The numerous times I've heard phrases like secular bias or mentally ill thrown towards me in these negotiations make me want to vomit. He and his family seemed to gaslight me into thinking that I knew what I was getting myself into when marrying into the family. The vitriol from my husband's mother is frightening. She also asserts that she doesn't feel like God looks after the courts anymore, citing this as the reason she doesn't want this going to trial because of me being granted temporary custody. She's furious about that. My husband has since been granted supervised visitation after they fought for it. At least it's supervised, because if they do any crazy religious stuff it would probably be noted by the supervisor. My daughter always seems very quiet after visits, which makes me paranoid. The evaluator/supervisor seems thorough whenever she visits me, though sometimes their scrutiny can be uncomfortable. They even visited my brother's house to observe our interactions. My lawyer keeps reiterating that all of this bodes well for me. Whenever I'm observed by a supervisor with my daughter, everything goes well. So, I do have confidence that I won't lose custody in the long run despite their unrelenting attempts to argue against me. I'm starting to call their bluffs about my mental health and the secular bias claims. My brother keeps saying much of that stuff isn't going to hurt me. Yet, it's still so hard. I'm exhausted by how many times people try to make me feel like I'm a negative influence on my daughter or that I'm harming her. This whole process is anxiety-inducing. What sucks is when it inevitably goes to trial, it might be dragged out because the courts always have a jam schedule. My brother, who has been helping me financially through all of this, continues to be my rock. He's used many of his contacts to help me through this process, and his unconditional support is invaluable. This has thrown a wrench in my husband's plan to drag this out to hurt me financially. They didn't anticipate I would have a strong support system. Recently, my husband made several attempts to meet, just the two of us. I've been hesitant to agree, but he kept emphasizing that his parents wouldn't be around to convince me to meet. I thought maybe, just maybe, it could be an opportunity to talk some sense into him. It did not go well. He still could not grasp that it was not about faith but the environment in which it was being presented. I reiterated that this religious side of him, which he is all of a sudden, was hidden from me for years, and now I'm expected to act like this is something he always wanted. It makes me sick how manipulative he can be. On top of that, when we parted ways, I ran into his mother, who was waiting in his car. She accosted me with typical doom and gloom Pentecostal threats about me going to hell and how I will regret waging spiritual warfare on their family. These are all instances I'm logging and reporting back to my lawyer, especially verbal harassment from his mom like this one. I can't wait for this never-ending headache to be over. Thank you to everyone who has supported me and sent me kind words. I appreciate it so much, and I'll be sure to post updates whenever I can. I highly doubt the mediation will yield any progress, but who knows? What I do know is that they seem nervous about going to trial, which is probably why he wanted to meet with me. I do have more confidence than the last time I posted about things going my way, but this is just awful to go through.